Hello, I want to welcome you back to Constituent Marking with Fred Long on proof text. Wow, we're really just growing our podcast network, proof text, Glossa House TV. If you've not discovered it yet, but maybe that's why you are here. Maybe you're here because you want to learn how to do this constituent marking method. It's an awesome method. Maybe you're here because you want to hear an exposition of these verses. That's great. So whatever reason you're here, you are here. And we're going to talk about 1432, this verse. So I'm going to read it. Ke pneumata propheton prophetes upotasete. All right. So let's do some marking. Ke, this is a simple verse actually. Ke is the connector. It is marking continuity. And so there's something being added to the discourse. Paul has been talking about prophets. There's been a kind of a sustained discourse on prophets and prophesying right now. Pneumata is, I'm going to start with a single underline, but this form could be nominative or accusative. And I know that because this is a neuter noun. There's something interesting about neuter nouns and forms, and that is that the nominative form is the same as the accusative. Okay, so you have to look at the context. So pneumata propheton. Propheton, I'm putting this arrow over to pneumata because it is clearly modifying it. And then I see the main verb hupotasete, which is third singular, present, middle, passive, indicative, subjected. So probably a passive. Whenever there's a middle passive form, you always try to translate it passively first. And then you have prophetes, which I'm going to take as dotted underline, which means as indirect object. Is subjected to the prophets. So pneumata, while I was indicating that it possibly could be a double underline, now I'm determining that that is not the case. It's not an accusative. It's rather simply a nominative. The spirits of the prophets are subjected to the prophets. Yeah, the spirits of the prophets are subjected to the prophets. Now, it's really interesting, the structuring of this, because there's an abutment of prophet and prophet. And so, that seems to be, that would have been heard. And the very thing that is subjected is then the outer elements. So the outer elements are spirits and subjection. The middle, the pivot, is the prophets. Yeah, so the spirits of the prophets are subjected to the prophets. So what does that mean? Yeah, what are the spirits of the prophets? Now, earlier Paul had talked about being zealous for spirits. Okay, what did that mean? Is it a shorthand for spiritual gifts? I don't think so, but it could be that the word spirits here is construing some kind of understanding of people, like a disposition, like people succumb to different dispositions. They give themselves over to certain dispositions. And so, of course, the main disposition that we want to hand ourselves over is the Spirit, like the Holy Spirit. But Paul does talk about, in Ephesians, he'll talk about being renewed in the spirit of one's mind. So one's mind has a spirit or a disposition. So that's maybe one way that we can kind of go to it, that this interior part that we can have in relation to our mind and maybe even our deep-seated emotion or bent or orientation or disposition, that this deeper part of ourselves, our spirit, the orientation, the direction, that needs to be subjected to the prophets. And this may relate to the previous verses, where it obviously does, where each person is able to prophesy in turn, and that moreover, that one person might have a revelation given to them, and they're sitting. So verse 30, they're sitting, and then they swap active roles of prophesying. So presumably one is quiet, the other one was sitting, stands up, and then each one is able to prophesy. And the spirits, this exchange of disposition to want to be prophesying, that this has to be subjected to the prophets. Now, the role of the prophets is seen particularly in verse 29. So 2 or 3 prophets are speaking. So if we look at verse 29, that's what it says. 2 or 3 prophets, let them be speaking, and let the others discern what is being said. So here is a group of people who have the gift of prophesying, are participating in the prophesying. And so presumably they're in mind where then Paul says, let the spirits of the prophets, the activities of the prophets, be subjected to the prophets. Now, at this point, I think I've already proposed this or suggested this, that and I need to argue this, maybe make a more formal presentation where I argue this. The idea of spirit in later rhetorical manuals has to do with speech. A spirit is how long someone can speak with one breath. So is Paul really, by talking about spirits here, is he talking about sentence speech acts or speech acts that are spoken with one's breath? Speech acts. So is this kind of a way of talking about speeches, discourses? So the spirits, the how much one can say, is subjected to the prophets. And this kind of begins to make some sense because there is this group that is discriminating, and there is supposed to be an order. One gets revelation, one sits down, one stands up, and the discourses of the prophet. So I might translate this discourses. Now this kind of might sound weird, but the spirit, the word spirit, remember, refers to breath. It can be translated as breath as well. And in John's Gospel, chapter 3, there's a sense that the Spirit comes and goes. It's a wind, it's a breath there. There's an analogy made with that. And so it might be that we're in the realm of kind of ancient, like how ancient people understood spirit as being related to wind and breath. And when we're in this realm of exercising spiritual gifts and seeking spirits, seeking the ability to communicate for others, that this might explain what's being communicated here. The breaths or the speech acts of the prophets are subjected to the prophets. That is the group that does the discerning. Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you found this helpful. If not interesting, at least helpful. If not also interesting. So anyway, thanks for listening and watching, and hope to have you listen and watch next time. Take care.